Chapter 39. Night Rain. "Mother of God!" Cat shrieked. She ran out of the room. "Dad! Mum! Come quickly!" When I talk to people about something I found out, they don't listen. When Cat does, everybody listens. Within 5 minutes, everybody was half-dressed and out of the door, into the driving rain. Dad brought 2 torches and his massive bunch of work keys. We ran down the road. Rashid, Aunt Gloria, Mum, Dad, Cat and I, with coats flapping, umbrellas blowing inside out, hearts pounding, hopes rising, my hand shaking itself out. Dad's hand trembled as he undid the padlock. A great howl of wind moaned its way round the big dark tower above us. Mum held a torch. We crossed a muddy strip of grass and peeled around the back of the building to the entrance. Another key. Another shaking hand. "Hurry, hurry!" screamed Aunt Gloria, almost rubbing the keys off Dad. We were in. The door closed behind us. Dad played the torch around the lobby. It stank like bad toilets and dead animals. Another key to a room, set back in the darkness. It was like an engine room. Pipes, boilers, cables, fuse boxes. It was silent like a morgue. The torch picked out what Dad was looking for. A cupboard. He unlocked that with a 4th key. There was a switch and he turned it on. Then he turned on a row of switches by the door. Light. The tower block lobby came alive. Yet another door to the stairwell. Another key. More lights. "Salem! Salem!" we shouted. Up and up, floor after floor, Cat and I were the fastest. I knew where Salem would be. He'd be right at the top on the 24th story. By floor 15 I was rasping. Cat was half a flight ahead. I heard her moaning and whimpering. "Salem! Salem!" Our lungs had given out by the time we got to the top. Cat had a stitch. "Salem!" she said. It was little more than a whisper. Then we were 4 doors on each floor. The first 3 were tried and locked. The 4th was ajar. I felt something scuttle past my foot in the darkness. "Salem?" Cat faltered. She grabbed my hand. It was clammy and cold, but it kept my hand from shaking itself out. "Don't go in there, Ted. I don't like it. I don't like the way it smells. Let's wait for Dad." We waited hand in hand on the 24th story by the open door. The door that led into darkness. It was the longest wait of my life. The theories, all of them, the photos, the words on the t-shirt, the pot on the wheel, were like floating strands in my brain. There were no more theories. This was the last one. The only hope. My heart thumped and my eardrums pounded. It was the sound of time. Dad came, panting. He had the torch. He staggered into the dark doorway. Cat and I crept after him. "Salem?" he said. He pushed through another door. The torch beam quivered across some grimy walls. "Salem?" That's where we found him. He was shaking all over, just waking from sleep. He was curled up like a fetus in an empty old room, on a mattress that the last people to leave the barracks had left behind in the flat. He was alive. Aunt Gloria rushed in and hurled herself around him. "Salem!" she sobbed. "Oh, Salem, my love, my love!" Chapter 40. After the Storm. Voice, tears, reconciliations. I remember them as waves of words, going back and forth, running over my head, around, past, through me. I walked to the window and pinched my nose to block out the smell of a building that Dad was sick. And I had to agree. Somewhere pigeons cooed. They'd got in through a broken window. Cold air brushed my cheek. Somebody took me by the shoulder. It was Dad. While Mum and Aunt Gloria held Salem to his feet and wrapped me in their coats, we looked out. The gale blew itself out and a new push of air, cool calm, stole in. The moon appeared from behind a bank of cloud. That's when I saw it. London, from the 24th floor, lit up like a frost on glass. The dome of St. Paul's was a luminous curve straight ahead. To the left was the White Eye. It was motionless, a giant bicycle wheel in the sky that did not turn. And we went home. In a hoarse, shaky voice, Salem told us what had happened. He had starved for nearly 3 days. He'd found water in a toilet cistern in the flat. That is what he drank. He tried to shout from the window on the 24th floor. Nobody heard, nobody looked up. He tried to get into other flats. They were all locked. He tried to get out of the stairwell. The door was locked to the bottom and bolted. He tried to break out of the building 1,001 ways, but he couldn't. He was trapped. All he could do was wait and hope, and he sat there with all the light and view and in the empty flat on the 24th floor. He slept on the abandoned mattress despite its dank smell. He had half a Mars bar left from his outing with Marcus, a disposable camera. The clothes he had on was nothing more. Then our doctor came to check him over. He pronounced him shocked but strong. He said how brave Salem was to have endured what he had and prescribed a bowl of soup and bed. Dad phoned the police and told him we'd found him. The next day Aunt Gloria, Rashid and Salem talked quietly together all morning in the living room. I didn't know what they said, but afterwards Aunt Gloria announced that Salem wanted to give New York a trial period of 6 months. This time it was his wish, she said, not just hers. Rashid left. He thanked us for what he'd done. He said he'd never forget. He and Salem would visit us often, he promised. When Salem came home for the holidays, as he walked through the front door into our postage stamp sized front garden, he turned and looked at Aunt Gloria, who stood beside me. Aunt Gloria's hand fastened itself hard on my shoulder. Gloria, he said. Rashid, she said. A moment passed and Rashid shrugged. His eyes were like Salem's. I realised. Dark lozenges. Enjoy the Big Apple, he said. The corners of his lips went up very slightly. He waved a hand. We'll try, Rashid, she said. Goodbye. Goodbye. His hand dropped to his side. His shoulders went down. Then he turned away and walked down Rivington Street. My head went off to the side as I watched him recede, and he looked back one last time before disappearing round the corner. After Rashid left, Salem asked to see Cat and me. He was plumped up on pillows on the sofa. His fake moustache had grown back, more noticeably than before. I remembered what he said about the grass and lawn mowers. He wanted to know everything, how he'd worked it out. He smiled at each bit of the story, especially the bit about the motorcycle show. Cat told him most of it. When she got to the end, she said, Salem, I just have to face it. My weirdo brother's a genius. Salem looked at me. You're a neek, all right, Ted. I only got nothing to do with nerds and geeks. It's short for unique. Cat and Salem laughed at that, so I did too. And that was when I knew I had 5 friends now, not 3. Mum, Dad, Mr. Shepherd, Cat and Salem. I was pleased. What was the worst thing about being trapped in that block, Salem? Cat said. Salem shrank back up into the pillows. Oh, you really don't want to know. Yes, we do, Cat said. The noises, I guess. The noises at night. I'd lie on the mattress and hear the wind moaning around the tower. Up, down, everywhere. Then the patters and sighs started, odd gurgles. Noises I didn't understand. I couldn't place them. Scuttles, creatures scooting across walls, rats, cockroaches, and flaps of wings, bats or birds. I lay in the dark and I put my jacket over my head. I buried my ears under my arms, but I could still hear them. Then something landed on my cheek, just a scrape. I sat up and screamed my head off. Okay, Cat said, blocking her ears. Sorry, I asked. It wasn't all bad, Salem said. No? Well, during the day it was okay. I watched the weather. I was close to the clouds. There was a thunderstorm. I saw lightning flickering over London, and these dark sheets of rain moved in, and then the sun came out. I took photos, buildings and sky. One half of London was dark, and the other half was light and sunny. The river was in both halves, a thin silver line, and what divided it all was the eye, big and white. I took a photo, Cat, the one on the disposable camera, the best I ever took. That afternoon, Cat and I had a final visit from Detective Inspector Pierce. Dad and Mum sat and listened while Cat told her everything that we thought and done. Detective Inspector Pierce's lips turned towards the end. She looked at me. Some brain, she said. She looked at Cat. Some actions, she said. You two have everything it makes to make a first-class to police detectives. Dunno, Cat said, dubious. I fancy the fashion trade. I told her I was destined for the Met Office. Pity, she said. My colleagues say I'm a good detective. You have to be if you're a woman in the force. But you two have taught me something. Youngsters are more worth listening to than a legion of adults. If it weren't for you two, Salem might still be trapped in that tower block, and by now the concrete crutches would have done their worst. I dread to think. She shook her head, and we looked high and low, north and south, and all along he was right round the corner. Then Dad said, I just don't understand how Salem got himself locked in like that. I had a security guard posted at the gate, and I checked each floor one by one to make sure it was empty. It was a few phone calls later before we knew what had happened. Salem said that as he'd walked past the block, he'd noticed the gate to the boarded-up fence ajar. It was a magnet. He thought of the 24 floors, the views that would soon no longer exist. His disposable camera. He'd only a few minutes. He promised himself. He'd slipped in. Nobody was about. He'd found the main entrance, and the door was to the stairwell. He cruised up the stairs, Meanwhile, Dad had been checking each floor was vacated. The last tenants all gone. He posted his colleague, Jackie Winter, as a guard on the outer gate while he'd gone up, using the stairs until he got to the top. You rang me, Faith, said Salem had gone missing, just as I was on the 24th, in the vacated flat. I remember rushing out. I left the door to that flat unlocked. It was no big deal, since the building would soon be secure from below. To save time, I took the lift back down to the lobby, just as Salem was coming up the stairs, I guess. I locked all the doors in the lobby area. I turned off the water and electricity and I went outside. I locked the main entrance, and there was Jackie by the fence gate, where I had left him. We padlocked the gate together and left. Salem swore he'd seen no sign of a guard. Jackie Winter was questioned, and at first he denied having left his post. Then he broke down and admitted it. He'd nipped into the newsagents. He'd only been gone 2 minutes. He'd been dying for a smoke and had run out of fags. He lost his job. Chapter 41. The last turn of the wheel. 2 days later we saw Salem and Aunt Gloria off at the airport. Salem grinned at me and shook my hand hard before he went through passport control. Mr. Unique, he said, see you in New York. Mum and Aunt Gloria embraced in their usual embarrassing way. Dad went to kiss Aunt Gloria on the cheek, but missed and kissed the air instead. Aunt Gloria gave Cat, then me, her hot and hard hug. Just as I squirmed away, she grabbed my wrist. Here, Ted, she said. Take these and throw them away. I don't need them anymore. She thrust her cigarette holder and cigarette case at me and fanned her face as if she could no longer stand the thought of smoke. Then she smiled and I remembered to smile back. And that was how Aunt Gloria became my 6th friend. Come on, Mum, Salem said. We'll miss our flight. He tugged her sleeve. They waved goodbye, a last goodbye. Salem looked at me over his shoulder as the guard checked his passport. We were eyeball to eyeball, just as we'd been when we first met. He winked. I'm not sure if I got it right, but I scrunched up one of my eyes as hard as I could. The airplane took off as a large Atlantic high asserted itself across Lundy and Fastnet. It stayed fair with moderate winds for the duration of their flight. When we got home, Dad said he was going to spend the weekend in bed, but he didn't. He began cooking eggs, whistling the Laurel and Hardy theme tune, as if the hurricane that was Aunt Gloria had never been. I'm making my special omelette, Faith, he said. One you used to like when we were dating. Mum rolled her eyes and smiled at the same time. Will I like it? Cat asked. If your mum does, you will, Dad said, because I know, and Ted knows too well, don't we, Ted? Know what? I said. Mum and Cat are like 2 peas in a pod. That's why they argue all the time. Mum looked at Cat, and Cat shrugged. Takes one to know one, she said, and they smiled. After the omelette, which was very good to eat, Mum announced that Aunt Gloria and Rashid wanted Cat and me to have a present for what we'd done. Cat admitted to the 50 quid we'd not given back since being at the lie. She gave Mum what was left over from our investigations. Mum laughed when she'd heard how we spent it. She insisted it didn't count. We could still have something else. What? Anything. Anything within reason. I chose a weather watch. It's an amazing invention. It tells the time, but also has an excellent compass in different modes. When you press a button, it becomes a mini barometer, showing the air pressure. My weather predictions have increased in accuracy by 31.5%. Cat said he wanted a motor scooter. Mum shrieked, Don't be ridiculous, Cat, you are far too young. Oh, Mum, you said... Within reason, Cat. Okay. Can I have my hair cut and coloured? The hair flare, then? Hair flare was where she'd gone for a consultation when she'd gone AWOL from school that day. Mum sighed. All right, hair flare it is, she said. Cat came home later that day with her brown hair cut into different lengths, with a long uneven fringe that kept falling over her eyes and dirty blonde streaks like rain makes it when it goes down a window pane. I wondered how she could see to walk. Mum's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Dad glanced up at Cat over his newspaper and disappeared behind it again. The newsprint shuddered. Don't you like it? Cat said, her voice going upwards. My head went off to one side. Cat? I said. What? I could have said she looked like a sheepdog that had forgotten how to bark, but I didn't. It's a real cool haircut. Through the strands of the fringe, she smiled. My third lie. I wrote it down on my new silver folder called My Lies. It's in my desk drawer and it's got a lot of growing to do. Just as planned, the barracks got knocked down. Our neighbourhood looked odd at first, as if a giant alien presence had been beamed to another planet, leaving behind naked sky. Then I realised, since he's gone, there's a different view. When you walk down our street, just as you turn onto the main road, for an instant, you see half the eye. You almost have to pinch yourself. It looks unreal, as in Cat's dream. It's moving so slowly you hardly know. The capsules of glass and steel glitter. The white spokes wobble in the sun's glare, and as always, Salem's silhouette is there, hovering in the centre, waving to us just as he did that day. Salem or not Salem, Salem supreme. It's as if the moment he boarded, 11:32 a.m, 24th of May, floats on in a time warp somewhere in my brain.